Tonight on To The Point, Prop 36.
It will create huge problems for local governments.
State Republican lawmakers demanding more funding for the voter-approved crackdown on crime. Plus confusion over Elon Musk's ultimatum email. Tonight, what lawyers suggest federal workers can do. The future of downtown Sacramento, what local leaders are proposing to boost the city's economy. And later, as we celebrate Black History Month, meet Sacramento State's first Black head coach for football, making history, how he got his start.
Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Tonight, there's a conversation growing about voter-approved Prop 36 that's cracking down on crime here in the state. Senate Republicans argue the governor isn't funding the proposition properly, but the governor's office says billions for services are already being spent.
We all want to feel safer in our neighborhoods, to reduce theft, and help businesses to stay open.
A hearing on Tuesday brought state lawmakers together, focused on public safety, corrections, the judiciary, and more. The focus was on implementing Prop 36, passed by 70% of voters last November. The initiative says people convicted of certain drug or theft crimes could receive increased punishment, such as longer prison sentences. It went into effect in December. Now, State Senator Roger Nilo is calling on the governor to do more.
In terms of the real funding need of the proposition, he's providing nothing in his budget.
In addition to wanting to see increased funding for law enforcement, Senator Nilo wants more funding for mental health treatment and drug treatment.
I do have concerns about people suffering from drug addiction being in jail, and that is the worst place for them to be. That is exactly why we need to get it into the budget this year. The vast need, the mental health treatment and drug treatment, he is specifically excluding that from the budget. People can draw their own conclusions as to what he's thinking.
ABC 10 reached out to the governor's office, who highlighted many different services across the state and says, in part, despite predictably increasing costs, Prop 36 did not contain any funding mechanisms. Nonetheless, the governor will ensure the law is operationalized, and his proposed budget provided additional funding based on anticipated increase in inmate population. The governor's record on this issue is clear. He has invested $1.1 billion in recent years to fight crime like drug interdiction and retail theft, help local governments hire more police, expand California Highway Patrol, and enable the local district attorneys to more effectively prosecute thefts, all with the overall goal of improving public safety. According to the state's Legislative Analyst's Office, they say Prop 36 could increase the prison population by around a few thousand people, and some who previously served their sentences at the county level would now serve them in state prison.
And Senator Nilo says the next steps going forward is the legislature's development of the budget based upon the governor's proposal. All right, turning now to the second Trump administration's first 100 days. Following chaos and delay, the House just voted tonight to adopt a budget resolution, starting the process to enact Trump's legislative agenda. The proposal includes $4.5 trillion in tax breaks and $2 trillion in spending cuts. The vote was 217 to 215, with all Democrats voting no. The resolution now heads to the Senate. And a federal judge has blocked immigration agents from conducting enforcement in houses of worship for some religious groups. This includes a network of Baptist churches, Quakers, and the West Sacramento Sikh Temple. They sued the Trump administration, throughout the Department of Homeland Security policies, limiting where migrant arrests could happen. The policy change said field agents using, quote, common sense and discretion can conduct immigration enforcement operations at houses of worship without a supervisor's approval. And a judge found that that policy could violate their religious freedom and should be blocked, while a lawsuit challenging it is playing out. And turning to the federal workers' layoffs. Tonight, employees and federal agencies are expressing confusion about Elon Musk's ultimatum email to reply with what they did last week or lose their job. The Pentagon, FBI, and Department of Justice have told workers not to respond, and the Department of Health and Human Services finally telling employees they can respond after hours of back and forth, but warning employees, quote, they should assume that what you write will be read by malign foreign actors and tailor your response accordingly. DOJ is now asking federal judges to explain their work too. Some of them have even received the OPM email.
This is to ensure that federal workers are not ripping off American taxpayers, that they are showing up to the office, and that they are doing their job. The agency heads will determine the best practices for their employees at their specific agency.
All right, so tomorrow, President Trump, he's expected to have his first cabinet meeting. Elon Musk is expected to be there as different cabinet secretaries are offering differing advice on how to respond to his emails. And so what should federal workers do during all of this? Reporter Matt Gregory talked with one legal expert who advises in uncertain times, follow orders and be prepared for a legal fight.
Every week it's been something else for federal workers. I mean, starting with the layoffs to the potential buyouts and now this most recent, the ultimatum. So we talked to a legal expert who says he's certain of one thing, this is all headed for the courtroom. So his advice in the meantime is to follow the orders and brace for the long courtroom battles that he's convinced will cost a lot more money in the long run.
Yeah, we really haven't seen anything like this on this scale.
Via Zoom, we talked to John Mahoney. He's a lawyer who specializes in federal employee law.
You know, the general rule, the golden rule of employment law is to obey orders now and grieve them later.
OPM has since backtracked on Musk's order, but Musk followed up with another post saying ignoring the email results in termination. Still, Mahoney's advice is the same. Write a prepared statement.
I've advised them to basically say the following. I supported and defended the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I bore true faith and allegiance to the same.
From your point of view, are those legal firings, or is this something where every one of these folks has ground roots for a lawsuit?
Every one of these folks have grounds for a lawsuit.
Lawsuits that Mahoney says could become quite expensive for the federal government.
And I don't think they're really thinking this through very well. But the reality is it can bite them in the backside at the end of the day, 3 to 5 years from now, and they have to cut checks for everybody to come back to work.
And new tonight, according to Ukrainian officials, the U.S. and Ukraine have reached an agreement on a framework for a broad economic deal that would include access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. The officials say the agreement would provide an opportunity for Zelensky and Trump to discuss continued military aid in Ukraine to Ukraine. According to one official, it also includes a proposal for joint ownership of funds from Ukraine's rare earth minerals and other state-owned resources. One political scientist weighs in on why Trump wants to access the materials.
Trump wants rare earths because the American economy is highly dependent on Chinese sources, and it's an economic and national security risk. And in order to avoid that the Chinese will take over Ukrainian rare earths commodities and build up potential mines there, it's an option for the Americans.
Zelensky is preparing to visit Washington, D.C. on Friday. This all comes on the heels of the 3-year mark in the war in Ukraine. Next on To the Point, a taco stand shut down by code enforcement. Tonight, why the owner feels he's being targeted and how the city is responding.
The taste of spring continues. I've got 70s on the way tomorrow afternoon, sunny and warm, but a pattern change is not that far away.
And later, making history, meet Sacramento State's first black head football coach, how he got his start, and the thoughts on the future of the football program. Welcome back in. Today, CAL FIRE released more fire hazard maps showing new levels of fire risk across the state. Now 7,600 acres are deemed within the state's very high fire severity zone compared to just 11 acres 15 years ago. Homeowners in the very high risk fire zones will have to comply with upcoming state regulations for an ember resistant zone. And that's the first 5 feet around the home that should be free of plants, wood, fences, and mulch. CAL FIRE will finalize phase 3 and 4 of those maps in March. It is something that we will continue to follow here on To the Point.
And on that note, we saw some places in Southern California with the most recent fires that had that little bit of a buffer around their house. Their house fared better than even some of the neighbors. So it is important, and it's lessons that we learned, including in the campfire as well.
Absolutely. And we're seeing higher temperatures here locally. Getting a check of our forecast here. It's actually going to be pretty nice. We're going to see 70s starting. It's finally starting to feel like spring a little bit.
Yeah, still a little taste of spring going on. Still a ways away from fire season here in Northern California. Always good when we can say that. 68 was the high temperature downtown today. 67 Sacramento Executive, 67 in Stockton, 67 in Modesto as well. So again, upper 60s across the board. Started off this morning in those low to middle 40s. Afternoon temperatures running anywhere from about 2 to 4 degrees above average for the time of year. Now we're in the low 60s in the valley. I've got 61 right now, Sacramento, 62 in Elk Grove, 60 in Stockton, 61 Manteca and Modesto, 61 Vacaville, 58 in Fairfield, 52 Placerville, 37 in Truckee, and 42 in South Lake Tahoe. Through the rest of this evening, temperatures in those upper 50s, low 60s at the top of the hour, low 50s by 9 o'clock, and still in those low 50s by the time we get to 11. We're looking at clear skies tonight and tomorrow morning. Maybe some patchy fog in parts of the Delta, but generally not like what we saw this morning in terms of that fog. So again, clear waking up early on Wednesday morning. 39 Sacramento, 39 in Elk Grove, 42 Stockton, 42 in Modesto, 40s in the foothills, 20 up in Truckee, 22 in South Lake Tahoe to start Wednesday. Now, Wednesday afternoon is going to be very nice. One of the warmer days we've had, low 70s across the valley. That's what I got for my forecast highs. It'll be sunny. It'll be warm, about 5 degrees or more above average for the time of year. Thursday, I've got low 70s. We will likely see some mid 70s in parts of the valley on Thursday. After that, we're going to see temperatures start to dip as a pattern change moves in. So as we look at the weather pattern, high pressure really builds in on Thursday. That's why Thursday is going to be warmer. We'll have a little compressional heating as well. But then that high pressure moves out, opens the storm door. We're going to have multiple rounds of low pressure systems move through Northern California all the way through next week. That is going to bring us some rain and snow chances once again. The Oscars are this Sunday down in, of course, Los Angeles. Coverage begins at 3:30 here on ABC 10, and it's likely going to be wet from the red carpet through the awards show and for the after party as well. At least the carpet this year is not champagne colored like it was a couple years ago when they had all that rain and it got muddy and gross. Here in Northern California, the rain moves in late Saturday and then continues likely all the way through Sunday, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. Next, on to the point, the future of downtown Sacramento, how city leaders are planning to expand business. Plus, dramatic video shows a taco stand being shut down by code enforcement, why the owner claims he's being targeted, and how the city is responding tonight. Tonight, a food vendor in South Sacramento says he's being treated unfairly by the city of Sacramento code enforcement after officers were caught on camera throwing away all of their food. So this is video taken Sunday night of Tacos El Lobo in South Sacramento being shut down by city of Sacramento code enforcement. You can hear the owner, Gustavo Angel, ask one of the officers why he pushed him. The 22-year-old says he doesn't have a permit to sell food on the street, and in the past 2 years they have been open. The taco stand has been shut down at least 10 times. Angel says officers used to speak to them and warn them until recently. They say code enforcement shows up and throws away their food, which can cost them up to $1,000 on a weekend night.
Uncle says I tried to grab a box and then he grabbed me and threw me against the railing. And I couldn't figure out why he pushed me. And he started to say, "Don't touch me, don't touch me." And I never touched him. I knew if I touched him, the outcome would be bad or they would have arrested me.
And the city of Sacramento sent us this statement, which says, in part, in response to complaints in the last 2 years, Tacos El Lobo has been given multiple warnings and citations by the city of Sacramento code enforcement, along with information on how to operate legally to comply with the city and county safety regulations. Sunday, February 23rd, was the second inspection where Sacramento County Environmental Health confiscated unsanitary and unsafe food products and cited the vendor for operating without proper permitting. The purpose of those actions is to ensure vendors are abiding by City of Sacramento and Sacramento County food and health safety standards. Tomorrow, thousands of University of California health research and technical professionals are expected to strike. The workers voted to authorize the strike, claiming unfair labor practices, saying the practices are fueling a staffing crisis and also hindering patient care. The strike is expected to begin tomorrow and last through Friday across UC campuses and medical centers. Leaders from across Sacramento, they gathered in the area this morning for the city's State of Downtown event, and this year's theme was Progress Through Partnership. And of course, Mayor Kevin McCarty highlighted the progress the city has made on homelessness and addressed projects still to come, like the Old Sacramento waterfront revitalization, the Rail Yards project, and the addition of new sports teams like the Athletics. McCarty says that the city wants to focus on using underutilized downtown buildings to grow businesses, some which could go towards expanding Sacramento State.
I'm super excited to help bring this project to fruition. The city needs to do what we can to help make it easier to grow business and thrive here in Sacramento. We need to lower barriers and streamline our permitting project to build more housing, opening restaurants, and open a business.
McCarty says the city is also planning to solicit a proposal this summer to sell the Hale building located on K Street. And we continue to celebrate Black History Month. Tonight, we are highlighting Sacramento State's new head football coach, Brennan Marion. He is the first Black head coach in the university's history. As he tells ABC 10's Chris Thomas, he hopes to make a lot more history here in the capital city.
It's fair to say it's an exciting time for the Sacramento State Hornets. They're buzzing about new head football coach Brennan Marion. He comes with over a decade of college football coaching experience, with his most recent position as offensive coordinator for the UNLV Rebels. He also held coaching roles at 11 other colleges.
You're making history, first African-American head coach at Sac State. Do you have a dream that this would be a thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime you see coaches that have came before you and you know, trailblazed the path, you feel like, man, maybe one day that can be me.
Coach Marion tells me he was especially attracted to Sacramento State because of two African-American leaders, Sac State President Dr. Luke Wood and Athletic Director Mark Orr.
Guys that look like me, that had some swagger to them, intelligent men who have, you know, built bridges, and ultimately for me was like, wow, we can do this together. We got something great that we can build here in Sacramento. And so I was excited to join them in their vision.
The recent three-time Big Sky Conference champions are planning a big move, with the Sac State Student Athlete Advisory Committee officially endorsing the football team transitioning to the FBS, the highest level of college football in the nation.
You want to see them on ESPN and playing in those big games. And so now this will give us the opportunity to do that.
And talk to me about this. It ain't cheap. I think it's what, like $5 million or something like that? $2.5 million already voted on behalf of the students. Another 2.5 coming from donors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you talk about leveling up or going to a new level, there's going to be a certain cost to that. And the thing that I'm proud about is our players are not taking that lightly. They're really grateful and appreciative by the work that they put in every morning out here.
1, 2, 3, champions! Here we go! You got your Go-Go Sacramento merch going. You're bringing that Go-Go offense here that you're famous for. What can people expect?
We talk about living a championship life, and one great year can change our life. So every day that we put the work in, we have an end goal in mind. And so our thought process has always been to either win with us or watch us win, but at the end of the day, we're going to win.
He tells me his determination to win and never give up was instilled in him at a young age.
I started football in my grandfather's backyard when I was about 5, and I'll never forget, they were beating me up back there in the backyard, and I ran into the house to my grandfather like, why they keep hitting so hard? You know, it's like, and I was crying, and he was like, well, you can quit or you can go back out there. And I ran back out there, and ever since I've been kind of on the football journey and football train. And so, you know, started football at a very young age. And, you know, obviously I always say thank God for the ball that saved my life. And it's brought me all the way to this point.
Oh, that's a powerful statement. Saved your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing up, single mom, you know, moving around a lot, football's always kind of been my safe haven, my comfort zone, my place to go to, you know, my rest, you know, free from the world and the things that are going on. So it's been awesome.
And coming up tomorrow on To The Point, we are taking you to a dance studio in South Sacramento. It was a vision of a Sacramento woman and her late mother to share and educate the community about their culture through music and dance. So tomorrow at 6:30 on To The Point, we're taking you to Phoenix Drum and Dance Company, how they're supporting surrounding communities and also allowing people to participate in the dance and drums of Africa with Afro-Caribbean music. It is a story you definitely don't want to miss. And if you want to catch all of our other Black History Month stories, they are on our ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. You can find them under our Race and Culture playlist under the News tab. And this app, I do want to mention, it is completely free to download. You can actually scan that QR code on your screen right now if you want to go ahead and get that app. All right, next on To The Point, if you are looking ahead for some weekend plans, we'll share what you can do without breaking the bank. All right, before we go here, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, it is Free Museum Weekend here in Sacramento. On March 1st and 2nd, general admission is completely free for all ages at certain museums. There are 32 museums here in Sacramento, and the museums cover things like history, the gold rush, the creation of the railroads, aviation, medical history. I mean, you name it. We got classic automobiles, art, and so much more. So if you want to register for free general admission tickets or to learn more about the Free Museum Weekend, you can always visit the Sacramento Area's Museum's website or find a link on abc10.com. As always, thank you so much for watching and inviting us into your home. If you have something that you think we should be looking into, you already know what to do. Reach out to me and the team. You can always email us at tothepoint@abc10.com. Remember, strangers are just people we haven't gotten the chance to meet yet, so take the time to get to know someone. I'll see you tomorrow.